So, welcome to another episode of the SNS Cricket Diaries. I hope you're all doing well, and it's been a long time since I have recorded a video. Been stuck with a lot of work over the last few weeks, but finally I'm here, and I'm here with a very special guest with us all from the field of sports psychology. I welcome Dr. Priyanka Sarkar to the SNS Cricket Diaries. Thank you so much, Dr. Priyanka, for being here.
Thank you, Siddharth. It's my pleasure to be here and to be able to talk to people who finally, I wouldn't say finally, to start acknowledging mental well-being uh, is welcoming. So I thank you for the opportunity and thank you for having me here.
No, the pleasure is all ours. And I would just like to start by saying that Dr. Priyanka is a sports psychologist with a passion for unlocking the full potential of athletes and enhancing their holistic well-being. Her journey into the captivating world of sports psychology was sparked by a momentous event that was Rafa Nadal's historic 10th victory at the Roland Garros in 2017. And witnessing the intensity and mental fortitude displayed on the court that day really ignited a deep curiosity within Priyanka about the psychological intricacies of sports. She also has a bachelor's degree in physiotherapy and a master's in psychology. And despite enjoying a successful career in the IT industry for 8 years, she felt her calling to pursue her passion for sports psychology. And she decided to make it a meaningful impact in the lives of athletes. And with that, I mean, her commitment to understanding the holistic well-being of athletes has led her to become the first sports psychologist in bifurcated Andhra Pradesh. So, with such an impressive CV, it's an absolute honor once again, Priyanka, for the SNS Cricket Diaries to have you here. So I would
Thank
like
you.
to start the interview by asking you the question about how can mental training improve, the athletic performance?
So I get asked this question a lot, Siddharth. So it is like I give them all one simple example. So let us say a player is like a race car who's been finely tuned, like for speed and precision. The player goes through all the working out drills, the technical skills that he has to acquire to be a skillful player. But now the race cars needs a race driver. The race, that is where the mental aspect comes. The race driver is the mental training. So when let's call this, there is a car, the player is ready, but you do not have a driver to race the car. How would you drive? So it is a mental training. Mental training is not visible. You see it in the outcomes, but you do not see it through the process. Like when you're building biceps, you see them growing, and that's a technical aspect, the physical training. But with mental training, it is not, it cannot be visible, but it only adds an additional advantage to your physical routines to get desired outcomes. So when a race car driver is racing, it is the mental training is like a steer wheel, which helps you with focus, resilience, and concentration to make sure you are going through every lap with the speed and the precision and the technical training that you have uh, built over the months during the off season. So for me, mental training is like the race car driver for a perfectly built race car. It just gives you that added advantage. I'm not sure whether you heard of this or not. It's called additional of marginal gains by Dr. Dave Brailsford. So when you add each and every bit and try to improve the technical aspect by one bit or mental aspect by one bit, or small aspects by one bit, you are improving the performance of a player. But even if it is by 10%, the player sees immense peak performance. So mental training is just trying to add one bit to an already well built or well trained player to improve his performance. So that is actually what is mental training. For those who do not understand, I do not want to give jargons and throw, because I want this field to grow in our country. So I'm just trying to put it in the smallest words and the most meaningful words
Right.
possible.
Absolutely. And so, Priyanka, when we talk about strategies, what strategies do you recommend for managing the pre-game nerves that we have, or we talk about anxieties that even the greatest of the players, even the most experienced of the players go through whenever they go onto the stage to perform. So
Yes.
how do you I mean, what do you have to say about those strategies that might be useful?
So we start training from the off season. We try to
Hmm.
inculcate the character, the personality of the player into the routines that we are building up. So no matter what, uh, how much you have trained, the player might face two situations like butterflies in the stomach or nerves in the stomach. Uh, then they start feeling this anxiety and stress, which might be a negative thing to happen. When butterflies happen, they say, when love is in the air, they say butterflies are there in the stomach, and it's an overexcitement. But you do not want a player to be overexcited or overstressed. You want them to maintain a balance of their emotions. So these pre-match strategies help the player to calm down himself or herself, focus on what is important. So for me, the strategies are developed during the off season, sitting with the player, making sure what the player is comfortable doing. So if I work with motor car races, so I'll take that example. So or during the off
Hmm.
season, we go through visualization exercises. But once there is a season announced, like there is 1 month before, we put in a different set of routines for the player to now to get into the real time situation near the racetrack as much as possible. So then we start watching lot many races that previous players of this category have played, and I personally ask my racer, put on your race clothes, put on your race helmet, and so that you can get into the zone physically. But for you to get mentally into the zone, I tell him, make sure you pick up a song that defines your character, your personality, and keep humming it. So the moment the player starts humming the song, it helps them get into the groove. And then we start with smaller things like, okay, talk to your team about the game plan, talk about your role, talk about how you want to take each lap with what lap time, or which turn do you want to cross this player who is ahead of you or behind you. And we also go into as finer details as asking the player to clean his own helmet 5 minutes before he gets into the car. The moment
Hmm.
he cleans the helmet and puts on the helmet, that is the moment of going further and not coming back. The moment he sits in the car and the car leaves the garage is the moment the player has done all these routines of the off season, during the off season, cleaning his helmet, singing the songs, talking to himself. That moment when he is out of the garage near the start position is, by then all these strategies should have come into force and move him into the right direction. So I include breathing exercises. I sometimes include doing playing darts so that the player is just focused and not concentrating on the external pressure. Or sometimes I ask him to listen to the news that is happening, the weather, so that he can plan accordingly to what his game plan should be. Sometimes because the weather is something we cannot control, there are other factors that we can control. But how the other racers drive is and how the weather plays out is something we cannot control. So
Right,
while he
right.
is on the way to the track, we will also try to listen to those uncontrollable situations so that we can make quick decisions and work along that, still maintaining that calm and confidence because we still have a tank of experience to hand uh, back on. So these strategies depend on the sport the player is playing, whether it's
Right.
individual or a team sport, or the kind of character he's got. If somebody it is aggressive, telling them to listen to a song and hype up will not work. And if the player is an
Hmm.
introvert, telling him to continue breathing exercises to keep him calm and composed will not work. So it's a mix. It's a mix of character, strategies, and the result that we want for the human side of the player. That is what I would like to say. So there are a lot of
Um,
factors that come into force.
Wonderful. And Priyanka, how do you help athletes overcome performance slumps or setbacks? Because of course, sports is a very result driven process, and athletes prepare to win. And when they don't, obviously they do feel that disappointment. So, and everyone takes it very differently, and to varying degrees of the extent to which they can become disappointed. So how do you manage in terms of your expertise to overcome these kind of setbacks?
One thing that I really liked when I was entering the field of sports psychology was I read this somewhere. When a player is coming to a sports psychologist, he brings their entire world with them. And I remember that every day of my work. So when they're bringing their entire world, they bring their fears, they bring their tears, they bring their success, they bring their
Mm,
celebrations, they bring their apprehensions, they bring their courage. So they're just coming to you to lay down all their burden on you so that they can live in peace or they can train in peace. So in the very
mm,
beginning, I asked them what is that they have sacrificed to be able to play at this level, or what their parents have sacrificed to be able for the player to be able to play at this level. So once we jot them down, and I asked them what are the choices they have made that they have for the choices that they have made, and that made them be where they are today. So when
mhm,
I say sacrifices and when I say choices, we put them all together and we know what is our strength, what like in the terms of financial assistance, what are our strengths? Like can we go and have effort to take this step, which is a risk, or can we step back and not, every player wants to participate in as many tournaments as they can, but sometimes
right.
financial assistance doesn't work. So I'll take an example. This last year, one of my players who was racing F2000 won three pole positions back to back. And so obviously, if he was playing this year, it would have been selected for the IRL that's happening, the racing league. But the season started very immediately, and the finances were tough, were tight. So it was a
Mm,
setback for him from being a pole champion to be not able to participate in the next season. It's a setback. It's a professional
mm,
setback. Every racer wants to be able to race and wants to be able to win the pole position. But then we had to step back, and the way we figured out our priorities was uh, was of most utmost importance, because when a player is having a setback, he doesn't want you to treat them as a racer, but he wants to treat them as a human being in the first place.
mhm,
So once anybody suffers a setback, I personally send them their favorite snacks, telling them, sending a cue card or a small card saying, okay, we are there, but this is that moment where we are not so happy about, but we will
mhm,
have such many more happy moments in the future, and I give them the space and time they want until they would like to have that conversation. So sometimes there are sensitive players who would like to shut down all their burdens and call me up and cry saying why this has happened. But there are players who want to take a step back, think what has happened, calm down, clarify their thoughts, uh, you know, form their sentences before they would like to come and talk to me. For them, I
mm,
give them space. So once that is sorted out, the immediate action for me or plan of action for me is to help the player understand that I respect them, I value them, and I trust their capabilities no matter what the result has been today. So there are
mm,
technical coaches, there are parents, there are fans, there are competitors, there are many people across who will go and judge him, analyze him, and everything. So when everybody is there, there is uh, one. The player just wants to be valued, respected, and trusted that he did not fail in his performance. That is what they would like you to know. So that is my duty to let them know that I trust you, about your performance, about your training, and your commitment and discipline to the sport. And I respect
right.
you no matter what the end result is. So when you create a psychological safety for the player, it becomes easier for them to come back from the setbacks. So once they take their break or like space, we come back. We know where we went. We do the route map. We play the entire match. We figure out
Mm,
where we have gone wrong, and now we find the answers for the solutions. Then we go back to
mm,
visualization. When we go back to visualization, it helps us figure out, imagine answers to the questions that we have failed to answer before, and now we
right.
are ready with the answers for those questions. So the now
Mm,
the player is confident, he's motivated because he knows answers for the questions that might arise, and he knows that no matter how he has performed or how he performs, he has a person completely trusting him and valuing him. Instead of
mm,
scolding him or just saying, "Why did you do this silly mistake?" You step back and say, "It's just a part of a game." Then that is when
right.
they feel safe. As a coach, it's important before you teach them anything. I believe it is important for you to teach them or to help them understand that they're psychologically safe with you. So that the safety web you weave for them does the wonders, I feel.
Great. And you talked about visualization techniques. So that's my next question as to what is the role of this particular technique in sports psychology, and how do you go about it?
So uh, let's say how I don't know. There are many people, but everybody says the moment I pick up a book, I fall asleep. There are
Hmm.
many people who say that, right? So the brain, if you have a thousand worded letter or thousand worded thing that you have to read, the brain gets bored and tries to fall asleep half the way. And that's the reason when
Mm,
you pick up your textbooks, you start falling asleep. But when you
mm,
try to put something to your brain in the form of images, it starts being attentive and clear. Now, when you're
mm,
showing a picture, like let's say you're showing a picture of a faded Sachin Tendulkar who's just showing number 10 with his bat on the right side of his hand and with the leg, with right leg crossed towards the left leg. And when you look at the curly hair, even if the shirt is not clear, it's not Tendulkar that is written, you will figure out that is Sachin Tendulkar, right? But the
yeah.
kind of image that Sachin Tendulkar has put in your brain, like the brain tries to imagine that. Now,
Mm,
let me try to tell you, there is a player who's 5 foot, 5 foot something, with his black curly hair, with a blue jersey, with his right hand, with a bat, with his right hand, with his left hand on his waist, trying to put his right leg, and you try to explain the ground, the audience, and everything. Your brain is half asleep. It's not even waking up. But the moment you
right.
show a picture, you imagine his hundreds. You imagine his pose. You imagine his straight drives, and you start imagine, bringing up all the memories of the image that are associated with you. The brain
Mm,
immediately starts getting active and attentive. So this is all actually what visualization is. So this
mm,
is a technique that I use for my players, and I tell my players, so you need visualization is you trying to practice or imagine how you want to perform in a real time situation. Now you are
right.
sleeping in an AC room and you want to imagine that you're playing and working hard on a hot day. It's not working that way. So you have
Right.
to create this kind of environment to be as realistic as possible for your match days. So I'll come back to
Mm,
the race car driver himself. So we told him you'll bind your eyes with a black cloth, but you'll put on the audio of the race cars driving on the track, and you'll put on your helmet and your jacket, the race clothes, and now you'll visualize how you want to drive your car. Now, I also want you to imagine the number, various players who are playing. I want you to imagine the names of the players, the race drivers' names on the cars. So once you look at the name of the car, you also know their game style, you know how they race. And now your
right.
brain starts working on decision making skills with clarity. So visualization helps you with clarity. It gives you a roadmap. It imprints a roadmap in your brain as how you should
Mhm,
be racing on a particular day or how you should be performing in a particular day on in a match or in training. So,
mm,
what your brain gets bored of, we're just trying to trick it by using images. So that is exactly what visualization is, and it actually works wonders. So, pe- day, again, daydreaming is not visualization. you are just in daydream, you're trying to do something, but in visualization, you're trying to get to a result, a goal oriented visualization really works wonders.
Wow, that's amazing, Priyanka. And my next question to you is about what methods do you use to enhance, motivation and goal setting for athletes? Because if you look at it, Priyanka, at the top level or the elite level, all these players don't need any extra motivation. They are motivated. That's why they are there where they are. So, how do you go about enhancing motivation and goal setting for players?
I'm glad you mentioned that elite players do not need to be motivated. It is already in them, within them. So that brings me to my topic, intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation, which are the two
Hmm.
types of motivations. So now
Okay.
for a player to be not uh, triggered by an outside motivational video or anything is because he has built inner motivation, the inner fire within himself or herself, that they feel that every moment that they are awake or sleep, the reason that the fire within them is enough to motivate them. So extrinsic motivation is the external factors like a TEDx video or a motivational speech or me rewarding the player something, an external factor which will help the player achieve something that might fade. So if I say, if I tell my player, I'll take this example. I told one of my players is a rifle shooter, and he used to stay. He stays in Bangalore, and his favorite snacks were some brownies from Theo Broma. The
Hmm.
moment I figured out, I said, okay, if you do your routines properly and if you get this goal, I'll get you brownies. Initially
Hmm.
he was so excited with the idea of brownies, but he over a period of time he started doing this. So but after a point in time he was not as excited as he was initially with the thought of the brownies. So now what I had to do, I had to go ahead and refine what how to instill the fire, the motivation in him. So we went
Hmm.
back, looked at his past achievements and where he stands right now, and how we can get him back there. So what we did was we took pictures of those achievements he has had, the medals he has had, and we put them around the on the wall. And every time I told him, write the story of how you practiced, worked, and got that medal and how you are going to put these factors and work in the next tournament that you have. So what we were trying to do is we were trying to instill the same fire, but from within, so that the player is motivated enough. And now, uh, we all these put together, the fire, the energy, the motivation from within will bring you to a certain stage that no matter what happens externally, you're not bothered because you believe in yourself. You believe that you have done this before, and now you believe that you will be able to do it again. And now, after that, this is settled, we sit to the goal settings. And now I do not do the smart setting, smart goals. When they say small, measurable, achievable, or result oriented and time bound, I do a different thing. I ask the players to select 5 goals and ask them to write down why they want these to be their goals. So that puts them in a realistic place. So let's say every player wants to become a Sachin Tendulkar. Now, every player now when he says I want to become a Sachin Tendulkar, now we will write down how do I what are my strengths right now? What are the strengths that are required to become the next Sachin Tendulkar? So my strengths right now are my realistic places where I know these are my strengths, but this is now and this is where. So this will help me understand whether I can reach that goal there or not. And once I realize that I can be there, I'll figure out the next steps, how I can go above there by setting short term goals or mid term goals and long term goals. But if I am a football player, but I want to be a Sachin Tendulkar, that is not realistically possible. At least
Right.
then I can change my goals to become like a Sunil Chetri or a Cristiano Ronaldo, and I will go about and learn the skills that are required. Because with every goal setting, there is a skill training that happens, and when you're training, you should know why you're doing that. So the next step comes about what is that you will benefit from achieving this goal. So then he will
Mm,
say, I'll build up my biceps so that my straight drives will be powerful enough.
mm,
And why will I buy biceps to take a photo shoot? That is not a realistic goal. You want to build your biceps to achieve the photo shoot, it is good. But will that help you get to a player to be you are in? Your reason for achieving that goal is wrong. So we sit back
mm,
and we try to attach a psychological well-being to the goal. So now what
mm,
happens? I want to do 100 drills a day. So why do you
mhm,
want it? I want my leg power to improve. So what happens when you improve your leg power? You can run well between the wickets or well on track so that on the field so that you are able to control the ball and take the control of the ball from the competitors as well. So
right,
when we sit and work on these type of goals, the player knows his strengths, his weaknesses, his opportunities, and his threats. And that is when he'll start working on realistic goals. Like sometimes we have players who say, I want to do this, I want to do that, but they do not have the strength right now to be able to do that. And so
mm,
the goal setting process will also have to be evaluated to see if the player's physic or the mental. No, you can always train the mind. You can always
mm,
also train the body, but that additional hinge that you
mm,
require is the reality. You want to
right,
become you are playing practicing football, but you want to play if you want to play cricket doesn't work. So the goal settings will help you understand the reality of your strengths, weaknesses, and they will help you set goals that you can achieve, and that will add a meaning to your performance. So that is how I do goal settings. uh, so this is a little different from smart goals, but
right,
this one seems more effective because the player now is uh, is confident and he's for the lack of word he's aware of his strengths from the very beginning, and he knows what he has to work on. So when he
mm,
is working on, the goal achievement just becomes a process. So slowly he's doing 100 wins. By the end of the 3 months, he's achieved what he wants to achieve. So
mm,
these are the types of goal setting. And when you do this, because you set a reason why you want to do this, your intrinsic motivation is also set into place. And by
mm,
then, let's say I do this, I eat this, then Priyanka gives me a brownie or Priyanka gives me a gift. So the
mm.
extrinsic motivation is also set. So that is how I do a holistic goal setting and motivation process. It's a little tough, takes quite long time, but it's fulfilling. But far by now,
Mm.
all my players have loved this kind of goal setting.
Great. That's quite an exhaustive process, I must say, Priyanka. But I think something that, as you said, it's rewarding at the end of the day. And when you talk about, we've spoken about motivation and goal setting, and now, so how do you address the issues of confidence and self belief in athletes? Because many times, especially in a sport like cricket, for example, certain aspects of the game, like for example, bowling is many experts say that it's a confidence game, and if you don't have the confidence, then you're not able to run in fast enough or smoothly enough. So how do you address these issues and instill confidence and self belief in athletes?
So for me, is no sport guarantees you 100% success. We will have
Hmm.
bad days, we'll have rainy days, but we will all wake up at the end of the day hoping, we'll all wake up the next day with a hope, like, okay, with positivity. That is what I tell them. No matter what you've achieved the previous day, you write down everything. I tell my players, I'm having a bad day today. They tell me. So I tell them, what all have you done yesterday, or what all have you achieved yesterday? Just write down. Or what all have you achieved in 2023? Write down on a piece of paper. They write it down. They write so much. And the next day, I ask them, write down what all has made you sad in that particular year. They write down. And we turn the page and I ask them, do you see anything? It's a blank paper. You do not see anything. So Every time you start from the scratch, but with the experience of the previous year. So what I tell them is you have come so far not to come just this far. So when you believe that, you'll always hope for the best. And I tell my players, no matter what happens yesterday, whether it's a success or it was a failure, we will always believe in ourselves. So when I talk about confidence, I'll have to come back to uh, I tell my players, okay, now I have worked with a tennis player who now plays in the ATP tours. So he was lacking confidence according to his coach. So I told the player, now blindfold yourself and ask the coach to throw tennis balls at you, and you try to play. So when he's blindfolded, he's just listening to the ball and trying to play the ball. He's not able to see the ball to play his backhand or forehand. Now, when you
Okay.
play with your eyes open, you know when the ball is coming at this speed, you play with, you play backhand or you play a winner or you play a forehand. But now when it
Mm,
is all blank and
mm,
blinded, you cannot see what way the ball is coming or with what force the ball is coming. All you
mm,
try to do is play the ball, listen to the ball and play the ball. And out of 10 shots, I told him even if you play one shot correct, if you play the ball once, you are a master. And in
mm,
the beginning, he could not do anything because he was focused on the eyes being blinded. He was like, okay, now my eyes are blindfolded. How do I play? The first 15 days, he was not able to do anything. But the
mm,
16th day, he came and told me, you know what? I figured out something. Why should I be focusing on playing every ball? How about I listen to the ball and I figure out which direction the ball is coming from, and I just swing the racket. So he's not looking at the outcome, but he's looking at the process. The
mhm,
ball will be coming from any direction. He does not know from where the coach will be throwing the ball. His only process is to just play the ball, listen to
right.
the ball, and swing his racket. And it is a process. Whether you're blindfolded or not, the only process is you listen to the ball and you play the ball.
Mm,
And now,
mm,
once that was set, that kind of thought process was set, he was able to play 5 balls. And then he moved on to 6 balls. And then he moved on to 7 balls. Now, when you do this, when you stick on to the process, the confidence increases. Now, when you stick on to the results, your confidence might fluctuate. But when you stick to the process,
mm,
you know that you are doing it right. It's only a matter of time the results show up. And when you
mm,
do this, the confidence levels increase, and the only thing you do is you start believing in yourself. No matter what the
mm,
circumstances, no matter what the kind of ball that you're playing against, no matter the opponent, you now only listen to the ball and swing the racket. And now what
wow.
happens is you're not bothered about the external factors. You're just
Mm,
focused on the ball, which is the most important thing in the sport of tennis. So these small things build your confidence and believe that you are indeed talented, and no
mm,
matter what kind of day it is, it will always help you retain the confidence in you. So for me, these are the smallest things that I do to make sure that the player is not losing confidence. So when the player says, "I do not know whether I want to continue playing or not," that comes from a battery of injuries, failures. So I tell them, pull out all the matches that you have played and see what are the things that have helped you come this far. Do you want to
mm,
let go of these things? And that redefines the entire process for the player, instilling self belief and confidence in the player. So people think sports psychology is a big thing, but it's just not. It is just smaller things that you create for the player, designed for the player, that instills confidence and self belief in them, and they start valuing the process more than the results. So that is
mm.
what I do for confidence and self belief.
That's wonderful, Priyanka. And my moving on from confidence and self belief to the importance of resilience, and resilience training. So, how do you go about that, and what are the techniques that you use for resilience training of athletes?
For me, it's very simple. I feed myself. no sporting career is a successful career.
Mhm.
You're supposed to have setbacks and you're supposed to have failures. Unless you have them, you'll never be able to enjoy what success means. If you are successful back to back, you will never realize the importance of being so successful. You take it for granted. So I resilience is what? Not just giving up no matter what life throws at you. It's not you making a lemonade or you're not trying to figure out, oh, what is this? You're just not giving up. So the very beginning of me trying to work with a player, I sit down with them and ask them what are the possible challenges that they might face in the sport. What are the
Mhm.
kind of injuries that they might face? Because this also comes from my experience as a as a physiotherapist. So I know the I want them to help me understand the technical challenges, the physical challenges, the emotional challenges that they will be facing in the sport that they play at the level they are playing right now. So once I have them, I'll sit and work out on what might be the possible answers for these challenges that they are facing. So that in
Mhm.
the very beginning, we tell my player, no matter what has happened the previous day, you
Mhm.
waking up the next day is a sign of you being resilient. So now you can
Mhm.
wake up at 10 o'clock. So last night you went and played a match, you were duck out, you went to sleep, your coach shouted at you and you went to sleep without having your food. You do not want to
Mhm.
get up in the morning. 6 o'clock, you do not want to get up. 7 o'clock, you do not want to get up. 10 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, you still do not want to wake up. But 10 o'clock, now you wake up, you freshen up, and go back onto the training field. For me,
Mhm.
that is resilience. We use these fancy words, big words for resilience training and everything, but it's just small gestures from you that you value yourself and you're not giving up. No matter
Mhm.
what happens the previous day, your intention and your bravery to wake up the next day is what resilience is. So
Mhm.
once this basic foundation is set for the players, I tell them, so what has happened is happened. You woke up the next day. That is what is most important. Now you woke up knowing that you are ready to face the challenges. There will be challenges ahead. There will be questions. There will be fears. There will be tears. You woke up knowing all this. And that is
Mhm.
where you're half resilient already. The next is you will figure out answers for your questions that you have had. But because we already figured out the answers in the very beginning about the challenges that he might face, it is just
Mhm.
putting them into action. So resilience
Right.
is not just giving up. There are times you do not want to get up from your bed. It's okay. Sleep as much as you want. Take as much time as you want. But the moment you decide to get up from your bed and go on to face the world, is where you will tell me why you want to do this.
Mhm.
Some people say, no, I'm habituated. No, if that is the case, don't go back to the field. Because you're addicted to training or you're addicted to playing, is not what we want you to go and play for. We want you to go
Right.
because you're ready and brave enough to face challenges. So now, how do we go about facing those challenges? I throw a lot of questions at him. I'll tell him, okay, this is going to happen. Now, what are you going
Right.
to do? So he'll say, use this technique. I'll do this. Okay, what next? I'll set up a goal. And how will you work on that goal? I will do this. So we will put on the routines into picture. And once everything, a roadmap is ready. So sometimes breathing exercises do not work for resilience technique. So most of the times, what people try to do is, I'm being bold enough when I say this. We try to throw breathing exercises or progressive muscle training exercises or something like that, or throw them into workouts. You need to understand that the psychological well-being of the player is as much of importance as the physical well-being of the player. So to do
Right.
that, you need to help the player figure out the questions of why he is doing that and what he wants to get there. So I tell
Right.
him, you want to go back to training. Why do you want to go back to training? Because I failed in this aspect, and that is why I want to go and build on it. So now then he says, okay, my foot is not good. So I'm going to do the labs or tests. Now we will
Mhm.
come back and see if there is some technique that will a routine that will help him mentally to also uh, understand that his leg work is as important as his physical work is, and
Right.
how we can improve the resilience through his entire physical training. So I have had players who would not be able to shoot for longer period of time because he was having back issues. Then we
Mm-hmm.
figured out a routine, like saying, okay, put the fan on speed one, just identify one wing and keep noticing that wing. And every time the wing comes under your, just at the top of your head, click your pen. So that is
Okay.
concentration. You're teaching him concentration instead of getting him just addicted to some boredom train. So these are
Mm-hmm.
the kind of routine. As I said, every player has different character, different personality, and they come with different values. So all
Yes.
these routines change from player to player. So I include a lot of things that are unconventional so that the player doesn't get bored, but he knows that the results are there for him to see once he achieves these goals. So, bottom line, if you wake up every day, no matter what has happened the previous day, you're half resilient. It's just a matter of few strategies before you become full resilient. That is how I put it across.
Wonderful, Priyanka. And as much as I'm finding this interview very fascinating, we are running out of time a bit. So,
I'm
a few
sorry.
questions. No, there are a few questions that are still left, but I would like to end with one question that I have in mind, and that is about we have seen disciplined and committed players like Sachin Tendulkar have tasted success, and yet talented players like Nick Kyrgios also exists. So there is on one end of the spectrum a kind of player like Sachin Tendulkar. I'm not just talking about his records, but the way I mean, he's known for his work ethics. But at the other end of the spectrum is someone like Nick Kyrgios. So how do you work individually with such contrasting personalities? As a sports psychologist, I'm sure that you must have come across such differing personalities.
Exactly. So no day is the same, no two players are the same. That I believe in. A few people enlighten you, few people exhaust you. But it is always your duty to make sure that they are psychologically safe with no matter what characteristics they come. So
Hmm.
for players like Sachin Tendulkar, discipline, commitment, hard work is the core of their success. But for players like Kyrgios, he's a team player. So what he needs to do to excel is to enjoy the sport. So from there, our goal settings start. Like for a player like Sachin Tendulkar, because of his dedication and commitment, you make sure you do not have to push him, but you also have to, you just have to respect him and value him. But with Kyrgios, you have to respect him. You have to make him understand that doing these routines will make him enjoy the sport. At the same
Hmm.
time, you'll also make him understand that. No matter what he is, because he's always known as a bad boy of tennis. No matter what he is, you will always respect him irrespective of his results. If you look at Nick, he's beaten his players in the in the tour. He's beaten Novak, he's beaten Rafa, he's beaten uh, Andy Murray, if I'm not wrong. Uh, Alexander Zverev, Tsitsipas has been the best of the players, the unconventional ways. But if
Hmm.
you look at Rafa, if you look at Sachin, there is not a single time he's put his wrong foot forward. So for
Hmm.
him, it's all sorted out. For a player like Sachin Tendulkar, everything is sorted out from A to Z. But for
Right.
Nick, you'll have to go A to five, A to F, then come back to G, then go to H, come back to B, and then come back to C. And it's a whole web of whole web. But for both
Mm,
the players, you make sure that they're psychologically safe with you, and they when challenged with questions, they should feel respected and valued. They should not be treated like, okay, Nick has a question, Priyanka, why am I doing this routine?
mm,
You are a support psychologist because you're an idiot, you're unconventional, you are too irritated. You cannot say that. You tell him say you are an unconventional player, and for you to
mm,
still continue to enjoy the sport, this is what you need to do. So,
mm,
at the end of the day, it is more about the learner's safety that we have to use as a sports psychologist. I
mm,
give him the psychological safety by making sure that my player is safe in whatever he's trying to achieve. And it's not
mm,
an easy thing because for a player like Nick, discipline is not of utmost importance. But for a player like Sachin, discipline is everything. So now the process varies. With Nick, enjoyment is the process. For Sachin, discipline is the process. And the results also vary because if you have watched, I do not know whether you watched Australian Open when Nick played along with Kokinakis. I do not remember his first name. He went on to win doubles finals in Australian's Open in 2022, if I'm not wrong. So
Okay.
he did unconventionally well because he's a team player.
Hmm.
He has to thrive in a team environment. So you give a lot of support for player like Nick to be able to thrive in that environment, no matter what his results are. But for Sachin, you need to give him disciplined routines, tell him how to focus without having to exhaust himself, without how uh, you just tell him routines, how to be disciplined and focus on the technique because his mental part is already right there. You just teach him how to be the best from being the good. But from Nick, you have to start from the scratch and then you have to show him the you have to show him the results before even he starts the unconventional way. So you always it is out of box thinking for Nick and it is the conventional thinking for Sachin. So you have to use two different strategies for two different players. But again, that is the beauty of the sport. You just not mentally train them. You mentally train yourself for the uh,
Yeah.
for the ones that you have not seen, the ones you have not anticipated, that helps you in your decision making process and helps you when you want to grow as a sports psychologist in a country like India, where no two players are the same, no two cultures are the same, no two backgrounds are the same. So it's a more fulfilling way when you have to work with two players with two different mindsets. With Sachin, it's a growth mindset, a dedication mindset, but with Nick, it is a fun enjoyment mindset. So you work along with the mindsets and the characteristics of each of the player to help them enjoy what they're trying to do. If you tell Sachin, don't be disciplined, don't be committed, he might lose the fun in playing the sport anymore. And with Nick, if you say, don't be don't be so funny or don't be so unconventional, he'll stop playing the sport and enjoying the sport. So trying to play within their rules of the games, giving them the psychological safety that they need, will enhance their performance in its own ways, is what I believe. It's about the process and the mindset of the players.
Fantastic. I think, Priyanka, after today, I'm going to definitely look at, uh, players from a slightly different perspective because, as fans, we always want our players to do well all the time. And
Yes,
when we look at players like Virat Kohli, Ben Stokes, I'm just taking some names from cricket who have taken break from cricket for mental health reasons. And if we go back as far back as Marcus Trescothick, a friend, the former English opener, he withdrew from a tour to India due to mental health reasons, and I think conversations on this is a lot more important and a lot more needed in today's world, especially in a country like India, where we still feel that there is a slight bit of stigma attached to mental health issues. People don't want to
yes,
come up with more openly and talk about it. In fact, I mean, if you just talk about wanting to take a leave from work because you are feeling mentally exhausted, that sort of also feels a bit of an enigma for people that you're taking off
yes,
because you feel mentally exhausted. I mean, there has to be something physically wrong or some extreme emergency for you to take a leave. Otherwise, mentally exhausted is not probably a sort of a sane enough reason to give. That's what I feel, at least, in the society, that
exactly. Yes,
we have come up a long way, but I think still a lot more needs to be talked about, written about, documented, and I think people like you are very important in our society to be able to really help our athletes and sports persons in general, and even people in general, to come out and talk more about mental health issues. So I'm so sorry, Priyanka, that because of lack of time could not incorporate the other questions, but
no,
probably for another episode, would love to have you again on the show and talk about something else as well, which could be equally appealing and generate a lot of interest for the public. So thank you so much, Priyanka, for being here.
Pleasure's all mine. Thank you, Siddharth, for trying to talk about those topics. When you say burnout, people do not see you burn out. The
Mm,
results are shown in your end performance. So when you say you're taking a break because you're mentally fatigued, people do not understand it because people do not see it, and it is not visual. Your mental issues are not visible, and so people try to do not try to ignore that. Okay, it is nothing. Why is it sad? So when Ishan Kishan went and I have to take this example. Ishan Kishan wanted a break because of mental fatigue, but he was seen at a party or he was seen dancing or he was seen smiling. Everybody was against him. There might be reasons why he was smiling. He can still smile, being sad. He can smile irrespective of what is happening in his life. So
absolutely.
that is how what we need to understand, that we can exist, we can live with being sad, with having burnt out, but to excel we need just to take care of ourselves. We need mental well-being to be able to survive, and be able to put our head above the waters. So this
Yeah.
mental well-being, taking care of ourselves will just help us put our head above the waters. And the mental work, the work that you put in, will help you swim across the shores. So thank you for bringing, me to your platform to throw light to certain things. And thank you for the opportunity. And hope to see you making more meaningful work. Thank you so much, Siddharth.
Thank you, Priyanka. And I mean, it's as I said earlier at the top of the show that it's an honor for me to have you on the show. So thank you, and until the next time from the SNS Cricket Diaries, take care. Have a good day. Bye.
You too have a nice day. Bye bye.